Welcome to Financial Issues, where we join reality with truth, helping you make the most of your money by honoring God with your investments. Now listen in as we give you the practical tools and advice you need to become a biblically responsible investor.
Good morning, folks. Welcome to Financial Issues today. Good to be here with you all. I'm Seth Udinsky in for Shanna Burt this morning with Sam Case and the Studio A team. Happy to be here today, folks. I'm excited for the show. Got a busy one today, so thanks for joining us and sticking with us here. You can join the conversation calling into the show, 610-363-1110. You can also join us on the live chat, financialissues.org/live. It's always lively, as I'm sure it will be this morning. Happy to have you all here today. If you got questions, make sure to ask us. We'd love to have some conversation with you. Speaking of questions, on today's show, we're going to look at some objections to BRI later on, biblically responsible investing. There's a lot of opinions out there. I don't know if you knew this, but a lot of people have a lot of opinions about biblically responsible investing, both Christians and otherwise. So we'll actually take a look at a few real objections that real Christians have made against BRI, and in a way that is charitable, honest, but also truthful. We'll try to make some sense about it and really kind of bring the clarity and the truth of biblically responsible investing to the surface. Also, one of the very long time stalwarts of Wall Street has retired, sort of. Kind of. We'll make some sense of all of it and the reaction to that. It was a pretty kind of shocking reaction, apparently, but we'll make sense of all of it later on in the show. Your calls and questions as well, folks. Great to be here with you all. But first, I want to open our show with some words about our friends at Preborn. We're in the midst of a Preborn campaign right now, Mother's Day campaign. We're calling this Making Motherhood Possible. We believe that motherhood is a wonderfully divine calling. We also believe that right now we live in a day and age where there is a target on the back of an entire generation of children who are unborn. There is intense hatred from certain folks in this country, mainly from a certain political party, and they are trying to kill these children. There's no other way to say it. There's no other nice way to say it. Preborn is standing in the gap, defending these children, not only saving their lives, but also spreading the gospel to their mothers and fathers in the name of Jesus Christ. It's an amazing ministry, and so we're excited to partner with them. We have a dollar-for-dollar match that is going on right now with Preborn. We're trying to raise $280,000 for Preborn by the end of this month. That's the equivalent of 50 ultrasound machines placed. Now, just remember, folks, an ultrasound scan can be the most vital thing for a mother who is abortion-minded. That means she's in a position where she's considering abortion. But when she hears the heartbeat of that baby on this ultrasound scan, now this is not me saying this, is actually according to Preborn statistics, 80% of the time she will choose life for that child. These abortion scans are so vital. For $28, you can provide one ultrasound scan, a life-saving scan. A 5-pack is $140. Maybe the Lord has blessed you with $5,600. $5,600 will actually provide one full ultrasound machine to be placed in a Preborn clinic across the country. And so we're trying to raise 50 of these. We have a very generous donor who's coming alongside of us, who loves Preborn and loves financial issues. And so not only is this money going to Preborn, but at the end of this campaign, this donor will be giving a equal dollar amount to us here at Financial Issues. Is an amazing double gift here. We're not doing this to raise money for us. We're receiving an amazing gift as part of this. We're doing this for Preborn, but we want you to join us as well, folks. If you love financial issues, give to Preborn. If you love Preborn, give to Preborn. This month, especially do that. You can do that at preborn.com/FISM. Again, preborn.com/FISM. That's the best way to make sure that they know that this gift came from a Financial Issues listener. So preborn.com/FISM. You can find this link on our website, financialissues.org. It's the banner there. And folks, I have a very special guest joining me here. I have Coryna Sharer. Now, Coryna is a Preborn advocate. She's a mother. She's a wife. She was personally blessed by the work of Preborn, and I'm thrilled to have her on with me. Coryna, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be with you this morning.
Absolutely. So what I'd love for you to do here now is just tell our audience your story, what happened to you, how God used Preborn to lead you to choose life for your child. What happened?
Yeah, so about 10, 11 years ago, I found myself pregnant. I wasn't married, just making irresponsible decisions, wasn't even in a relationship. And within that pregnancy, I wasn't in it place financially stable to even raise a child. And something that Preborn does is they support pregnancy clinics all across the country. And so I'm located in Orange County, California, and God led me to a clinic in Huntington Beach called Horizon Pregnancy Clinic. There was a lot of other options that I could have looked for. I was really looking for, I just knew I needed an ultrasound, which I love that you mentioned the ultrasound machine. And I needed a free ultrasound. There was, the first choice on Google. I knew that if I stepped into that clinic that my decision to carry, I probably wouldn't have if I would have stepped into the first choice on Google, because the place that I was in my life, I was like, there's no way I can carry a child. And I didn't have any support. I didn't really have support from my family. At that time, I was actually sleeping on somebody's bedroom floor that was kicked out of my house. And so the Lord led me to this clinic in Huntington. I didn't know that they were faith-based. They don't advertise that on there. But I went in, and you're right. 80% of women, they do change their minds when they hear that heartbeat. I know for a lot of women, it's very joyous to hear the heartbeat. But for me, it just wow, this is the reality. But the fact that I could hear a heartbeat, there was no way that I could make that decision not to carry. And so this clinic, not only did they show me that there's life within me and encourage me, you can do this, but they really equipped me. And I know that you said something about preborn celebrating motherhood, and that really lines up with what this clinic does. Is they really I believe that their values are to educate, equip, and elevate. And they came alongside me, and I was able to take parenting classes. I know that there's this narrative out there that it's just, they just want you to keep the baby, and then they kind of just leave you to your own vice. Yeah. But that was not my experience. I had a mentor that I took weekly classes with. And when I took my classes, I was able to get diapers and wipes and clothes and so many formula. I know at times this clinic has even provided women with car seats, brand new car seats, not used ones. And so they really helped me become a mom. It wasn't just keep your baby. And I know that this was possible because they partnered with Preborn, and Preborn really truly does care about the whole woman, not just about keeping the baby. And it changed my life. I came from a broken family. I didn't have my dad in my life, and my mom, she was also a single mom. Becoming a single mom was my worst nightmare, but because of the education that I received from this pregnancy clinic, I was able to go on to make much better choices. And so now, my son, he's 10 years old. He just turned 10. We've been so blessed. I was even just telling you earlier that we took him to New York for his 10th birthday, which I couldn't even imagine that when I was pregnant with him.
It's awesome.
I'm married. I'll be married 7 years in November, and we have 2 beautiful girls. You can see their artwork behind me displayed proudly in our home. And so we've just been so blessed. And I'm just so thankful for the vision that Preborn has. Because it's not just about, let's just save a life, but truly let's let the mother know her value, and let's help her raise this child. And they do that by supporting other clinics around the country.
That is an amazing story, Coryna. Thank you so much for your vulnerability and sharing that with us. I actually cannot imagine what you must have been going through at that time, when you first found out, and then to not have the support from your family, but then to see how God just flipped that on its head and used Preborn to be able to bring you to a place now where you have a beautiful family of your own. You have a husband, you have 2 more children. What an amazing blessing. And, folks, that's what God does. God takes the broken things in our lives and he makes them beautiful and whole. And I'm just so thankful for you sharing that story with us, Coryna. That is absolutely amazing. Folks, I cannot stress enough, the work that Preborn does is a divine work that blesses women throughout the country, just like Coryna, as well as men too. They tell us thousands and thousands of mothers and fathers come to faith in Jesus Christ because of the work that Preborn is doing, because they go to a clinic and they hear the baby's heartbeat and they go from abortion-minded to now wanting to defend the life of that child. Really is an amazing thing. Coryna, I want to thank you so much for sharing your story with us today. It was a blessing. And folks, if you were touched by this story, maybe that's the Lord telling you, now it's time to give. So head out. You can head on over to financialissues.org, click that Preborn banner. That'll take you to preborn.com/FISM, where you can give as the Lord leads you to give today. Folks, we got more financial issues coming up right after this. Stick with us. We'll be right back. How is Timothy Plan continuing to lead the fight as you guys now enter your fourth decade of leading this fight of biblically responsible investing?
We've been too silent for too long, and we can no longer be silent. You stand up, like Ronald Reagan said, we're only one generation away from losing all of our liberty. Yeah. It has to be fought for. I wish it didn't. And you can fight for it. You don't need guns and ammunition and that. You can fight for it, especially with your dollars, because it's always about the money. And when the money starts impacting people, they start paying attention. When we launched this, they said it couldn't be done, but here we are 30 years later. They said you couldn't get competitive returns, but here we are.
What a tremendous testament of God's grace.
Go to financialissues.org/Timothy Plans to learn more about Timothy Plan.
We believe in being faithful stewards of what God has entrusted to us, and nothing is more important than investing in the next generation. The most impactful way to do this is by sharing the message of Jesus with young people. Crossroads Kids Club is an after-school program that brings the gospel to elementary school children in public schools nationwide. Together, we can make a lasting difference for the kingdom. To learn more and join the movement, visit reachOurschools.com. Again, that's reachOurschools.com.
May is a time to honor mothers, their strength, sacrifice, and unconditional love. But for many women, motherhood feels uncertain and overwhelming. Fear and doubt leave them considering abortion. You can give hope. Just $28 helps a woman hear her baby's heartbeat, a powerful moment that leads 80% of mothers to choose life. Go to preborn.com/FISM to give today.
Securities offered through G.A. Reppel & Company, a registered broker-dealer and investment advisor, member FINRA and SIPC. Opinions expressed by Shanna are hers alone and are for informational purposes only, and do not necessarily represent those of G.A. Reppel or the outlet on which you are listening. You should consider how the information applies to your situation prior to personally implementing it, and consult any financial professional you work with to make sure it's applicable to your financial plan.
Folks, I hope you were blessed by Coryna's testimony in that first segment. I know I certainly was. Hey, one quick reminder for you as well. I know some of you are not comfortable giving online. Maybe you're just not really, you don't use computers that much. Maybe you're more comfortable over the phone. You can also dial #250 and say keyword baby. That's kind of one of the other main ways that you can give to Preborn. So it's #250 keyword baby. So you say the keyword baby to the operator. But when you do that, just make sure that you say to whoever you're talking to, I'm a Financial Issues listener, and I want this to be part of the Financial Issues campaign. So just make sure that you have that caveat as well if you choose to give that way. The best way to give, the easiest way to give is online. Just go to financialissues.org and click the Preborn banner. It'll take you right to the Preborn page where you can give securely there. Folks, if you can't give as well, you can pray. You can pray. You can tell people about Preborn. You can share on social media. Those are some great things you can do there too. All right, folks, let's get to now this conflict surrounding BRI investing. So as I said at the top of the show, there's a lot of opinions out there about biblically responsible investing. That's what we're all about here.
There's a lot of opinions about everything.
Well, that's true. Yeah, definitely. But especially this, Sam, we've noticed, and especially within the church, within Christian circles, we thought it would be a good idea for us from time to time to look at some of these real critiques of it and give some insight to it. So what I'd like to ask right now is for the FISM Army in the chat, as many of you are on there right now. And right now I see George is in the chat, and I see James, I see Bob, John, Darlene. I know there's more of you there. So if you're there, if you're there, please do go ahead and say hello and make sure that you show up here. What are some of the more consistent criticisms you have heard concerning BRI investing? I know you've heard them. Give them to me in the chat there, and we'll maybe take a look at them later on in the show. But Sam, right now, let's take a look at a real critique that we saw of biblically responsible investing with some charity and honesty from our part, try to bring some clarity to it. What have we got here, Sam?
Yeah, I found this one very interesting. It came from Reddit, and I think some of the objections come from misunderstandings about BRI,
Sure.
but we'll go through that.
Okay.
So it's a longer objection, so the question is, Seth, do you want me to take it piece by piece or just read the whole thing?
Yeah, why don't we go piece by piece?
Okay.
Let's do that.
So the first part, they say, I think BRI means well, but misses the mark. Hear me out. If I buy a used Toyota from a local car lot, what % of that money goes back to Toyota? The answer is none. Similarly, if I buy a mutual fund full of 100 stocks, for example, how much of my investments actually goes to the companies whose stock I own? Answer, none. So I've not made an impact for the kingdom either way.
So there's a lot to unpack in that first part. Now, keep in mind, folks, right away, this is not coming from a quote-unquote enemy, okay? This is coming from a Christian.
You can tell because he refers to it as his kingdom.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's his kingdom. And so right away, we're not dealing with enemy on enemy fire. We're dealing with refining, trying to help each other understand more. We're on the same team here. But we have someone here who, in my opinion, Sam, like you said, maybe has some misunderstandings here. So first, his initial comments here. The example with Toyota, Sam, I found this interesting. He uses the Toyota example, but what he fails to recognize is that there actually was a transaction in which Toyota did make money in his example that he gives, probably more money than he did when he bought the used car because Toyota sold it off their lot at a higher price because cars depreciate in value. So right away, there's a little bit of a fallacy there. But here's really what I want to kind of see here, folks. I can see his reasoning with the mutual fund example. I get it. The volume per company is small when you're doing mutual funds. But I'd counter that by saying that the investment does not, it still has an impact, even if it's a small impact. And that's okay. Like, there's nothing wrong with still investing in a company, even if your impact in it is smaller. The logic that he's bringing seems to suggest that since the impact is not that big, it's not worth it. Am I correct in that, Sam? Do you think that's kind of what he's coming at here?
To a degree, yes. I think that's part of his argument. But here's where I think there's a misunderstanding about what BRI is trying to achieve and what some of the philosophy behind it is. Because the whole analogy he's making with Toyota and the mutual funds or the ETFs is that it's about how much money is going to the company.
Right.
We don't really care about how much money is going to the company, whether it's a good company or bad company. As we always say, there's a difference between stewardship and what is it? Buying things from the company.
Stewardship versus patronage.
Patronage. Thank you so much. The word was escaping my mind. Yes, there's a difference between stewardship and patronage, and he's kind of conflating those two things. It's not about how much money is being given to a company. It's about the fact that we are owning these companies and that under our ownership, they are doing ungodly things. So he's completely right. If the whole issue was, we're not giving that much money to these companies that are in these ETFs, he's 100% right. And if that was the case, he's probably correct. It shouldn't matter.
Right. The difference is that's not exactly how it works, right? You know, like you said, there's some differences here. So back to what I was saying about the impact thing too, because I've even heard some of that from some of you, and I've even felt that as well. Why do something if it's not going to have a big impact? If I use that logic, though, I should just stop spending time with my children every day. I should stop pretending to sword fight with Josiah and dance with Eloise, because what impact is that really going to have on them when they're grown up? So they're really going to remember it? You all would probably say, yes, that's a huge impact. Well, that's the point I'm trying to make here is, yes, those small things add up. Those small things are a big impact. And I think we need to remember the promise of our Lord, too. If you're faithful with little, you'll be faithful with much. And he promises that he'll give you much more. That's found in Luke 16 and Matthew 25. You have made an impact for the kingdom if you choose to invest biblically. If you choose to do biblically responsible investing, whether it's through equities or whether it's through mutual funds or ETFs, you have made an impact. You're making an impact, even if it's a small one.
And of course, the more Christians that are doing BRI, the bigger that impact will be. So it's not just you, it's the whole body of Christ acting together.
Right. That's exactly right. Sam, you remember Dan used to say this, a lot of crumbs make a loaf. A lot of crumbs make a loaf. If a lot of people are doing it, it's going to have a bigger impact.
I always wonder, how do you stitch the crumbs back together
how do you,
into the loaf?
How do you reform the loaf? God could do that.
It'd probably
could
be a
not.
pile, not
That's
a loaf.
exactly right.
But still.
That's exactly right. Good stuff. Sam, what else does this person say here? What are some of his other critiques?
So he makes his whole analogy with Toyota, and then he goes on to say, plus, these BRI screens reduce the available investments and generally underperform. So now I'm not being a good steward either. So he's saying, one, we already addressed this, that it's not making much of an impact.
Yep.
Now he's saying, because in his opinion, these BRI screens screen out better performing companies, again, in his estimation, you're not being a good steward with your own money by basically skipping out on those better valued companies.
Interesting. So Shanna has said multiple times on our show here, folks, if you've listened to the show, you've heard her say this, that according to research, roughly 90% of publicly traded companies on Wall Street would qualify as biblically responsible. Most of Wall Street, most of those companies would qualify as biblically responsible. Now, he's not wrong. I want to be charitable to him. If he's thinking like many people do, they're thinking about the big names. Berkshire Hathaway, Verizon, Netflix, McDonald's, those ones. If you're just thinking about those companies, there are a lot of those that aren't biblically responsible. But I would counter that with even right now, even as we speak, right now on May the 6th, 2025. And I apologize, guys, for best ofs. We can't use this segment for a best of because I just dated it.
No, I think it's fine enough.
Don't
get over it.
That's it's exactly right. Even right now, definitionally, there are multiple Magnificent Seven stocks that would screen clean, that would qualify as biblically responsible. If you're a partner, you know what those are. Okay? And you might be owning some of them right now, actually. The logic that there are no BRI investments is simply untrue. There are a lot of BRI options out there, as is the belief that in order to do BRI investing, you have to sacrifice good returns. There are scores of FISM partners out there who would disagree with that, who would say by your own personal testimony, I've had great returns doing biblically responsible investing because I've done it right. I've done it long term. I've been well diversified, and God has blessed it. Art Alley, my dear friend, our friend of the ministry, the founder of Timothy Plan, has frequently shared the testimony of how the Timothy Plan funds have constantly kept up with non-BRI funds over the last 3 decades. Consistently. Not saying it's a perfect match every time. The point there is that there's really no difference from a making money standpoint if you choose to invest with BRI stocks or non-BRI stocks. There's that argument that he makes there that BRI investing equals not good returns is simply not true. We have to remember, folks, and here's a really important thing also, good stewardship is not about making good returns. We love to make good returns. We want to make good returns, but that's not what it's about ultimately. What it is about is really it's an issue of the heart. And it's an issue of obedience, where you believe that God has commanded you to do something and you're going to do it no matter what the returns are, because you believe that there's a better return coming in glory. That's really what this is about. This is an issue of the heart. So, Sam, I think there's one more that
can I say one more thing?
Yes, please.
Here I want to be charitable again and express that there can be confusions about BRI because there's different interpretations of how this works.
Yep.
So you're right. 90% of companies under our interpretation of BRI, which is we're not investing in companies that promote LGBT stuff, abortion, human trafficking, etc. 90% of companies would be BRI. However, there are certain interpretations of BRI that is not good enough to just not be investing in companies that are doing bad things. BRI also includes proactively supporting companies doing good things. So if that's this person's view of BRI, he might be right that does further limit the amount of companies that you can invest in. That's not the way we do things, and I've not looked at how much it would limit things if you did it by taking it the step further, but that could possibly be what he's thinking of as well. That's just not what we do.
Absolutely. And you know what? I would tell him, Sam, to be even more, kind of charitable to what he's saying. If that's your conviction, go for it. Absolutely. Convictionally, we don't believe that that's part of biblically responsible investing is only investing in what's called good companies. We have another critique that we'll look at in the next segment that answers that exact question. What exactly is a good company? Is there a perfect company out there? You can probably guess what the answer is, but really interesting stuff there. Sam, what's his final critique here?
Yeah, so his final critique says that nobody wins except the company who convinced you to pay them to buy your underperforming investments by making you think think you were doing something good. So he's saying the only people that win would presumably be companies like Timothy Plan. You're buying their ETFs.
Right.
He claims they underperform, which we already discussed they don't. So he kind of says the whole thing's a big scam just to make you feel good about yourself as a Christian.
Yeah. And you know what? I think he's right. Again, to be charitable to him, mutual fund companies make money off of investments. That's their business. That's how they do it. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing scammy about that. That's just simple business. But I think, Sam, this gets to the premise of this user's whole critique really is this: is BRI useless? He thinks it is. We would disagree. I would give him as a final encouragement the following words, hopefully to help him see the other side of this debate. Number one, BRI brings with it a responsibility of obedience, that we must obey God with the money that he's given to us, and that becomes the defining thing that we do. We'll be held accountable for it. Second, no act of obedience is wasted. God takes our feeble efforts and he makes them something great. And then last, if you believe in the power of God to take the little you have, the little impact you feel over your investments, influence whatever, and make much of it, there's no excuse not to do BRI investing. So hopefully this person would listen to our show and maybe come to a different understanding of what he feels here. If you got more to say, we'll be coming back after this break. On the other side, more financial issues right after this.
May is a time to honor mothers, their strength, sacrifice, and unconditional love. But for many women, motherhood feels uncertain and overwhelming. Fear and doubt leave them considering abortion. You can give hope. Preborn provides free ultrasounds and shares the life-changing message of the gospel, reaching women in clinics across the country. When you give to Preborn, you're giving these women a chance to choose life. Just $28 helps a woman hear her baby's heartbeat, a powerful moment that leads 80% of mothers to choose life. And when we come together to sponsor 200 ultrasounds, we'll equip a preborn clinic with a life-saving ultrasound machine. Will you help make motherhood possible? Go to preborn.com/FISM to give today. That's preborn.com/FISM.
I remember my life before I met Jesus. I was most of the time afraid. I remember one of my teachers gave the classroom an invitation for Crossroads. When they talked to me about the love of God, I felt a sort of peace in my heart. I learned how to pray to God. It helps me through my day. I will commit myself to learn more about God's Word, to be able to share the gospel to others. Jesus has been a big impact in our family. Now we go to church every Sunday. I see more happiness and less arguments. God's love is so perfect, I will not change God for anything.
To help reach more kids like Louise with the life-changing hope of the gospel, visit reachOurSchools.com.
Folks, I hope we can encourage you. You know, BRI investing really is worth it. And whenever we have critiques to BRI investing, especially when they come from those within our camp, from fellow Christians, we want to be charitable to that. Clearly what we saw in the last segment, you can go back and listen to that if you missed it, is we have someone who genuinely wants to use the money that God has given to them to the best of their ability and get the most out of it. And so there's some difference in how we see, maybe definitionally, kind of how we see the most effective way to do it. But, I do really genuinely believe that when we come to critiques like this, the best response we can have as Christians is charity, kindness, as well as honesty, though, and not being afraid to speak the truth. Sam, we actually have another critique here that speaks a little bit to some of the things that we talked about in that last one. What do we have from this one? Again, this is a real person, a real Christian. What are they saying?
So this is another guy also from a Reddit page discussing biblical investing, and he says practically 100% of companies out there are unbiblical. That's all he says, so I don't know if he's saying that means that you should just say the heck with it and invest in whatever you want, or he's perhaps saying maybe you shouldn't invest at all because in his view, all companies are unbiblical.
You know what? It's interesting. Nelson from Louisiana shared a complaint that he's heard, which is you'll run out of stocks as they will not all be BRI. So a similar thing there too is, there's not a lot of biblical companies out there. And this guy goes as far to say practically none of them are biblical.
Yeah, he's really expanding what biblical means in the term we're talking about with companies and investing.
Yeah, that's really, and you know what, Sam? I think that gets to the heart of it. This is from someone we presume is a Christian, but the heart of his question surrounds the definition of biblical. It sounds to me, and I'm trying to be charitable here, but it sounds to me like his definition of unbiblical would better be translated as imperfect, that there are 100% of companies out there that are imperfect. You know what? God bless him. He's right. He's right. There are no perfect companies out there. If that's the case, then we shouldn't invest at all in any companies because none of them are perfect. Why? Because we're all sinners. We're all sinners. Every CEO is a sinner. Every lower level employee is a sinner. Every upper level management employee is a sinner. Every IT guy is a sinner. Every hamburger flipper is a sinner. Every truck driver is a sinner. Sam and I were talking about this yesterday. The example we came up with is the only perfect company you'd have is if Jesus were the CEO and Jesus were every single one of the employees. That's all it was. And if Jesus were every single one of the investors in that company, and if Jesus was every single one of the board members also. That's the only way a company would be perfect. Otherwise, they can be the most Christian company out there. Everyone on staff is a Christian. They will still be imperfect. They will still be unbiblical, as what I think his definition of this is here. Am I correct?
Your best example, Seth, would be the church, right?
That's exactly right.
Jesus is the quote-unquct CEO.
Yep. You can think
every
of it that
member
way.
is a Christian, and yet it's still imperfect.
Is the church
in his
perfect?
term, it would be unbiblical.
Right.
Because it's full of imperfect people.
That's exactly right. Yes, the bride of Christ is being refined constantly. We are not perfect yet, corporately or individually. So, unfortunately, if you take this take that this person has, you might as well give up because there's nothing worth investing in anyway.
Or even give up finding a church because you're not going to find a truly perfect or biblical church because they all got problems. You basically can't do anything.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Maybe you can just go outside and go to a park or something.
Exactly right. Yeah, absolutely. But then when you start to think about it, you realize, well, even the air I breathe has been infected by the fall, and this world is. So it just drives you down a path of the point that we're trying to say here, folks, is this is not the way to think about this. This is not the way to think about this at all. We do not expect companies to be morally perfect. We do not hold them to a standard of perfection because we understand that we ourselves cannot be made perfect. We are all sinners before God. We desperately need the grace of Jesus Christ, and by God's grace, He's given that to us. The definition of biblically responsible is not even for a company to be Christian, let alone perfect. Not even Christian. The definition of it surrounds not using shareholder dollars, investor dollars, to fund sinful agendas. That's biblically responsible investing. That's what it is. The key is how they use shareholder dollars. Do they use shareholder dollars either neutrally or positively? And we really want companies to just focus on using shareholder dollars to benefit the company. If you're a restaurant, use the shareholder dollars to make good hamburgers and to pay your employees and to expand the business. That's all we want. If you're doing that and only that, it's biblically responsible.
If you ever read one of our petitions we send to companies when they become non-BRI, we say this right in the petition. We say we are not asking you to be a conservative or a Christian company. Right. We just want you to do what you do best and stay out of all this nonsense. It really shouldn't be that hard. You're actually adding to what you're already doing. It's actually less work to be BRI.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Sam. It's spot on. So it really is very simple. You've heard us say before on the show, if you're a restaurant, just flip hamburgers. If you're a widget factory, just make widgets. That's what it is. I do think that this question gets to really a deeper issue of what is our definition of righteousness and perfection. And I do think oftentimes as Christians, and I'm not saying that this person thinks this, but what he said makes me think, okay, maybe there's some of this thinking here, is that we think we can be better than we truly are. We hold ourselves to such a high standard. Oh, I'm not going to get involved in anything that is not perfect. Like Sam mentioned earlier, it's so egregious when it comes to the church. You have Christians out there who are maybe a little bit overly pious, and they say, I'm not going to that church because there's sinners in that church. Look in the mirror, folks. You are a sinner as well, okay?
Taking it a step even further, you probably couldn't even get married.
That's exactly right. Can't get married. Have to marry a sinner. Can't have kids. You're going to have sinful kids, folks, okay? The elites don't want you to know this. Your kids will be sinners, okay? I can speak from personal experience.
Seth, no.
Not mine. They're so great. No. It's
that's
folks,
not a
it
dunk
really
on
is
you.
true.
I love your kids.
Thank you. But that's exactly right. Yeah, marriage, it's all the same. The point with all this, praise God, we have a Savior who is perfect on our behalf. We stand righteous before God because he is well pleased with the Son. We can take that thinking and think, okay, we can get involved in these imperfect companies and celebrate when they do things well. And because here's really the point of it all, folks, is that we want to be obedient to God. God did not command us to not invest in imperfect companies. He commanded us to be good stewards with what he has given to us. And so we be biblically responsible. Once again, Sam, with this same person here too, I would hope that, and it's a long shot, but I would hope that they would find our show and listen to it, maybe come to a little bit of a different opinion there. It's interesting stuff for sure.
Breathe a little bit. It's part of freedom in Christ. It's not to say you can
exactly right.
do whatever you want, but what it is saying is that you're not trusting in your own righteousness. You don't have to worry about that, about being perfect, because he's perfect and he already has accomplished that, and God now sees you as righteousness. You can now relax. It's great.
It's awesome. You can breathe easily, folks. It's the beautiful double gift there. No, it's great. Well, Sam, a quick headline here that has to do with some of the stuff we've been talking about. Christians do, I think this is a good thing, they do want investments to align with their values. What can you tell us about this?
And that's part of this whole conversation, right? We're reviewing what Christians are saying about BRI, but it is important to note whether they agree with it or not. They do fundamentally agree that their values should align with their investments or vice versa. That's according to an Eventide survey from late 2024. It found 88% of Christians want to invest in funds that are, quote, highly ethical and seek to do good. Now, I know that doesn't say BRI per se, but it is along the lines that they're at least thinking about this. They're thinking about that they want there to be an alignment between their money and their faith. However, sadly, though, only 23% believe they are currently invested in those types of funds. So there is a disparate, there's a discrepancy between what they want to do and what they're currently doing, but that's where ministries like Financial Issues comes in. We help you bridge that gap.
Absolutely. And folks, I hope that you don't hear us say this as well. If you find a company out there that is doing good things, say it's a Christian company that also qualifies in the definition of biblically responsible investing, knock yourself out, invest in that company. That's fantastic. We love that. I mean, I think, the way I see it, Sam, is when companies are doing more of the positive stuff, like purposefully investing in pro-life businesses, for example. We had Nick, what's his last name? Vujicic. Vujicic was on the show yesterday, as a bank that now is providing a good or service for Christians and conservatives. That's all good stuff there, but that's icing on the cake to what biblically responsible investing really is. So I think we could celebrate that. And just as a good reminder, the impact the Christians can and have had in the corporate sphere, we can make a huge difference, folks.
Oh, yeah, definitely. There's another study. It's a faith-driven investors study. It found that it's estimated that Christians manage over $150 trillion collectively. That's more than half of the world's overall wealth. Wow. So that's 200 to 300 times greater than what's given philanthropically each year. So that's that idea that if we all get on the same boat, we all commit to BRI. We were talking earlier about what difference can it make. That's a major difference if we're all rowing in the same direction.
Oh, yeah. And especially, Sam, when you think of, what that faith-driven investor quote said, it's 200 to 300 times greater than what's given philanthropically each year. Each year. We sometimes think, in a colloquial sense, okay, if it's philanthropic giving, it's to a cause that's generally good. Well, hold on a second, folks. That's not always true. You can give philanthropically to Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood is evil. Okay, it's evil. And I don't mind saying that it's evil. I don't mind saying that an organization is evil. An organization that murders babies and makes money off of murdering babies is evil. You can give philanthropically to wretched, evil causes. So we want to have this kind of impact. Christians having this much wealth it's a good thing. And I'm not preaching a prosperity gospel here. I'm saying God has blessed us, given us this. The question is, what are we going to do with it? We need to be faithful with it. I think that's the point of what we're trying to make here. Good stuff, folks. When we come back on the other side, we'll talk a little bit more about this, answer a partner question, get to the markets as well. And we'll talk about that interesting situation we have. The stalwart of Wall Street sort of retired. We'll see what happened there. All that and more on financial issues after this.
It's up to us to stand up and say, enough is enough. All of this unbiblical stuff that's going on, whether it's abortion or transsexual or LGBTQ, widespread pornography, human trafficking. Bottom line, it's still up to us. If we stop investing in these corporations that are trying to destroy us, sooner or later, they're going to wake up.
To learn more about biblically responsible mutual funds and ETFs, go to timothyplan.com.
Each May, we celebrate Mother's Day and the gift that mothers are to us. This May, you can help make motherhood possible by supporting Preborn. Preborn partners with clinics across the country, providing free ultrasounds and sharing the hope of Jesus Christ with women who are abortion-minded. When you give to Preborn, you're giving these women a chance to choose life. Go to preborn.com/FISM to give today. That's preborn.com/FISM.
What separates Crossroads Kids Club from other ministries to reach school-age children? What sets you guys apart?
First of all is our connection with local churches. We mobilize, equip, train, support local church partners. We're right inside the schools. There's a number of ministries that try to serve public school children outside of the school, but we're able to be right there on the campus. Another key thing is just our values. Our highest value is actually relationships. And so we're not a ministry that's driven by a lot of fancy technology or flashy stuff, but rather getting adults who love Jesus and who love kids to sit on the floor with a group of kids, to listen to them, to love them. So I would say the relational emphasis and the simplicity of the model is actually something that makes Crossroads special as well.
Help reach kids with the hope of the gospel. Visit reachOurschools.com.
The opinions and recommendations expressed on this program do not necessarily represent the opinions of the station or any of the program sponsors. Additionally, all products or services offered by the program sponsors may not be known by the program.
Good to see Jay. Good to see John, Nelson, Dave and Darlene, Daryl, Steven on the chat. Good morning to you all. Happy to have you here. I know a lot of you
all
said
here, man.
Good morning earlier. George saying good morning, and Scott saying good morning. And thank you all for sharing your complaints that you heard. Not complaints for us, thankfully. It's the BRI complaints specifically. You've heard, things like we had mentioned Nelson's earlier. And there were several others there also. Thank you to those of you also saying that you loved Coryna's testimony. That was a powerful testimony back in the first segment. So go ahead and check that out whenever you have the chance. Sam, let's get to a question here. I know Brandon from, I actually don't know where Brandon's from, but I know he's one of our younger partners, has a question there for us.
Brandon's from the internet, Seth?
Yes, he is. He lives in the internet. Yes. That's right. It's just amazing. Like the Reddit guys, right?
Yes. Well, Brandon, wherever he lives, he says, thank you for the excellent conversation on dollar cost averaging. One point I'm still a little unclear on is what to do with money that I add to my portfolio from each paycheck. Obviously, I go to the portfolio tracker first, but then do I add my current positions or look for new stocks on the buy list? My current stocks are considered a hold, but I also don't want to have too many different positions. Any thoughts?
Brandon, it's a good question. The short answer I can give you is it's really up to you. It really is. Both options you mentioned could be good to consider when you're looking to put the money to work. It really will depend on your allocation. It'll depend on where you might be underweighted, which sector could use more beefing up, that sort of thing. Those are all questions that you need to ask for yourself. You're the best portfolio manager that you have. But I think you're thinking rightly on what to do with that money. You're also correct in not wanting to be over-diversified. I think that's a good reminder for us that we want good diversification, don't want to be over-diversified though. The beauty of it is really if you follow the asset allocation for your model, which I assume based on your age is the growth model, then you'll do great. You should do just fine. And this is a good reminder for you, Brandon, and for anyone listening as well, that even if the stocks you own are a hold, so they're on the broad list, they're a hold, you're still free to add to them since you already own them. That's really the key difference there, is if you don't own the stock and it's on the broad list, you should not buy it. But if you already own it, you can put more money to work in there if it works for your allocation. So that's really important for you to just know what you need. Again, if you already own them, you're free to add to them if you want, knowing you purchased them when they were on the buy list. And Brandon, I know you're a very active partner. It sounds like you've got a really good understanding of your portfolio, keeping an eye on the buy list, different things like that. So if you do that stuff, brother, you'll do fine. I think you're doing a great job.
And just so you know, on the broad list page, there's a little disclaimer box at the top. You can look at that, and it talks about dollar cost averaging into holds and when maybe you should do it, when maybe not. So I'd encourage Brandon to look at that. It's not a ton of information, but it might help him think about what he wants to do.
Definitely. I would also encourage you, Brandon, along with what Sam just said, you had referenced Shanna and Jason's conversation on dollar cost averaging from, I think it was last Monday. So it wasn't yesterday, but it was the previous Monday. So it was the last Monday in April. I think that was April 28th. So check out their conversation. It was the first half of the show, April 28th. By the way, folks, if you want to catch past shows, go to the website, just hover over the show button. You can go to episodes on demand. If you slide down below watch, listen, and show highlights, episodes on demand. We have all the episodes updated there, full episodes. You can go through them as fast as you want to. So Brandon, check out April 28th. And if anyone else is wondering where that conversation came from, again, that was April 28th, Monday. Shanna and Jason had a great conversation there in the first part of that show. Good stuff.
I also say you can type in dollar cost averaging
there you go.
at the top of the website. Bring up all our latest conversations about that. Sometimes it won't say so in the title, but if a video comes up, it means it was discussed within that video. So
that's good.
Check that out too.
Yep, absolutely. It's great to have a new website. It's awesome.
Fantastic.
Good stuff. Well, Sam, let's take a quick look here at the markets yesterday. So the indices were mixed. Investors awaited the latest trade news. That was really all that was going on yesterday. It wasn't a whole lot. By midday, Dow Jones was the lone winner. The S&P 500 and the NASDAQ were down. The S&P was actually trying to continue its longest winning streak in 2 decades, but it could not finish on top. So the indices pretty close to the flat line. By the end of the day, they finished below by Monday's closing bell. The Dow Jones was down 0.25%, the S&P 500 down 0.6 roughly, and the NASDAQ down 0.75%. The pre-markets were very similar this morning. Let me check real quick to see where the markets are as we've now opened 20 minutes or so ago. Everything in negative territory. The Dow, the S&P both down 1.1%, and the NASDAQ down 1.3%. The big thing looming this week, folks, we mentioned yesterday, is the Federal Reserve's interest rate decision. So that will happen tomorrow afternoon. We'll make some sense of it on the show on Thursday, and I'm sure Shanna will talk about it as well Thursday and Friday. All right, Sam, let's get to this news that we highlighted at the top of the show. We saw a stalwart of Wall Street sort of retire over the weekend. What can you tell us about this?
Yeah, he did, but kind of not. He's going to be lurking around,
That's
right? Yes, the Oracle of Omaha, Warren Buffett, he announced over the weekend he will be stepping down as CEO of Berkshire Hathaway by the end of the year after serving in the role for 60 years, which is just crazy to think. Though, as we said, he will still remain chairman of the board. So no longer CEO, but he's still going to be the chairman, CEO. He is recommending the chair of Berkshire Hathaway Energy, a man by the name of Greg Abel, to be his replacement as CEO. Here's Buffett making the grand announcement.
The time has arrived where Greg should become the chief executive officer of the company at year end, and I want to spring that on the directors effectively and give that as my recommendation.
For people who can't watch, my favorite thing about that video is Buffett's rocking his 2 Coca-Colas, a cherry and an original. Buffett, I do not believe, drinks coffee. He only drinks Coca-Cola, and there he's doing it right there.
There you go. But, 94 years old. You can kind of do whatever you want at that point. You can kind of
do whatever you want, right? It's not good for you, but 94, what the hey? That's what I think. Anyway, CNBC said the move stunned shareholders, but I think that's kind of funny. It's stunning that a 94-year-old man stepping down, maybe not so stunning. What do you think, Seth?
I agree, Sam. Folks, this is such a good example. If you saw the headline, CNBC acted like the world was over with this. Like the market, investors were shocked. They were stunned that a 94-year-old man who has more money than he can shake a stick at is retiring. Oh my goodness, what a shocker. No, all that teaches us is take mainstream media news headlines with a grain of salt, folks. They're trying to generate clicks. They're trying to do that stuff. This is not shocking news at all.
I'm actually surprised he's not done this a couple years ago, because you would think if he died without having a set-up replacement, that's going to create a power vacuum, which wouldn't be the best thing for the company.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's exactly right, Sam. So, really interesting stuff there for sure. Sam, we have referenced Warren Buffett before, not as a model for biblically responsible investing necessarily, but as one for long-term investing. Yeah, he's done it pretty well over his career.
Yeah, that's his superpower, right? Yeah. Is long-term investing, just famously ignoring the day-to-day emotion and chaos in the market. So in 2008, famously, someone told Buffett, "You lost $10 billion today," to which he simply said, "No, I didn't lose anything. I didn't sell anything, so I didn't realize the loss." So he was just a master at remaining calm, cool, collected in the face of the storm that is in the market. In fact, during the 2008 crash, Buffett invested $5 billion in Goldman Sachs. So when everyone's panicking, he's investing. So he lives up to his famous advice of bad news is an investor's best friend. He made $3 billion off that Goldman Sachs investment.
Crazy stuff. Yeah, he really is a tremendous example of doing long-term investing well. Sam, it was interesting. I was thinking about this yesterday. Seems like a man with some wisdom. Now, it's limited wisdom. He does not, by his own admission, he does not have the Holy Spirit in him. He's agnostic. I think he was raised Presbyterian. He has since, I don't believe he ever made a profession of faith, and he is agnostic. So he's not really sure what he believes or thinks about the end times, the afterlife, all that stuff. I would hope for the sake of his soul that he would think hard about that as he's coming to the end of his life. But by common grace, he does have a lot of wisdom nonetheless. And I think this is one of those areas. His words from 2008 sound a lot like what Dan Celia used to say, that you don't lose if you don't get spooked and get out. Those losses are only on paper. They really are. And listen, it could spook you. You could think, oh boy, I got to stop the bleeding now and just get out now. Buffett didn't, Dan Celia didn't, and it ended up working out really well for those guys. And Sam, lastly, I'll say, I think it is worth it just one more time for us to be reminded that when CNBC says something is stunning news, take it with a grain of salt, temper it. So that's good stuff there, Sam. Thank you for bringing that up to us, brother. Always interesting when we see sort of the landscape shifting when it comes to some of these leaders, especially one like Buffett, who has been such a stable force for the last 6 decades. It's pretty crazy to think about. Well, folks, we're coming to the end of our show here. I do just want to remind you one more time that we are in the midst of our preborn campaign. If you were blessed by Coryna's testimony earlier on in the show, I would consider asking you, at the very least, pray about giving to Preborn during this campaign. Pray for Preborn and for the work that they are doing. Over their lifetime, Preborn has saved somewhere around 350,000 babies from abortion and have brought the gospel to almost 90,000 mothers and fathers. And the Financial Issues family has been vital to that. And I don't say that just willy-nilly. Preborn has said, by their own admission, what it means, the relationship with Financial Issues, what that has meant to them over the years. We are not their biggest megaphone by any stretch of the imagination. They're on Daily Wire, they're on Blaze TV. But there's something about this relationship that is so powerful and impactful, and it's you all. It's the listeners of Financial Issues. You make it happen every single time. We have these lofty goals, and you guys always hit them. So we are making good progress here in our goal, our $280,000 goal. We've already underwritten 1 ultrasound machine. We got 49 to go. And you might be a listener out there who has $5,600 who can underwrite one of those machines. Consider doing that today. Again, preborn.com/FISM is the place to go. Preborn.com/FISM. It was great to be here with you today, folks. We'll have Shanna back tomorrow. I'm always thrilled and honored to be on the show with you all. And God willing, we'll do it again tomorrow for more financial issues. Until then, remember, everything you have belongs to the Lord. Be found a good and faithful steward with it. God bless you all, and we'll see you tomorrow for more.
If we ever forget that we're one nation under God, then we will be a nation gone under.
Thank you for joining us. This has been an FISM production.